Hello and welcome back to another episode, Tribe Family. If you are enjoying these episodes and feeling completely inspired to do possibly just as I am, you should give Anchor.fm a try and record your own podcast absolutely free. They have all the tools to be as creative as you want, and not only that, they'll do all the work to distribute your episodes to every major platform. Best part is, you can even start earning money from having just a little bit of fun. Get over to Anchor.fm, download their app, or head over to their full website. Until then, enjoy this next amazing travel story from my next guest.
Good morning. This is your wake-up call. Wake-up call. Wake-up call. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello again, podcast world, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the globe tuning in with our tribe at Inspire the Collective. Welcome back, but if it is your first episode, here is just a quick intro to our online community and podcast series where each season and its guests will be different as we cover a variety of different topics to bring recognition to the weavers out there, the ones that are living their dream life, while also inspiring the dreamers, the ones looking to develop their own passions to chase the life that they have always wanted to live. Season 1 is underway, and this is episode 2 of What's in Your Backpack, a season full of travel topics where we will be chatting with international travelers from all around the world and all different walks of life. Each episode will bring insider travel tips and tricks, entertaining personal stories for the do's and don'ts, and guided inspiration for the where-tos and where-nots to benefit your travel addictions. I am Michael O'Shea, aka your neighborhood travel guide, aka the king of the two-day holiday, aka the passport filler, aka the traveling hobo, and I am hoping someone will unpack the stories associated to these nicknames throughout this season. But let's get into this next episode for What's in Your Backpack, as I have another dear friend of mine joining me that is no rookie to traveling, has lived in some of the coolest cities in France. He grew up literally in the heart of the grape fields for Remy Martin. He creates badass travel videos just for fun and was my personal tour guide in Bordeaux. Mr. Romain Chollet, my brother, how are you today? And thank you for joining us for the second episode.
Hey, Michael, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you again for inviting me in your podcast. I did listen to the first one with a kiss. It's a pleasure to hear from you. And again, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome, man. I probably totally messed up your name, like pronouncing it in French. Like, can we get the proper pronunciation?
Okay, of course, listen 1 to French pronunciation for my name. It's Romain Chollet.
American is what? Romain Chollet?
Depending on Starbucks, they call me Romain Chollet or Romain Chollet.
Romain, that's great.
Romain.
Your lettuce. That's so funny. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So, Roman, I have a little disclaimer for my guests to protect the listeners before we go deeper into this rabbit hole and unpack your backpack. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm definitely ready.
Awesome. So I don't want any bullshit, just to create the story for the show, you know? The intent of our time together is to bring raw and honest facts from your personal experiences to benefit our listeners for their travel. We want to know you. We want the nitty gritty, whether that be stories we almost can't fathom to even be true, to the embarrassing stories you have a hard time admitting even happened. All real, no judgment, and sharing with the sole intent to inspire. Romain, are you in and willing to open your travel backpack and share with the world your story?
I'm ready. Definitely
Awesome.
ready.
Awesome.
More than ever.
Let's get into it then. I know you love to travel. I've been following your journey for about 7 years since I met you in Bordeaux after I stayed on your family's farm in Cognac, France. But I would love to share some of your knowledge with the world so we can all benefit from your experiences. So, Romain, if you can please share a little bit about yourself, where are you from, where are you living, and if you don't mind sharing a bit about what you're doing for work these days, or not doing during the virus.
Yeah, so I'm 27. I was born and raised in Cognac, so in the southwest of France. From my parents' house in Cognac, I moved to La Rochelle. It's a small town in the French coast. Then I moved to Bordeaux to start my studies. And then I moved to Paris and traveled lots in different countries, in USA, in San Francisco, and in Canada, in Montreal, and in Singapore. It was like 3 major trips during my studies, so it was incredible. and part of it you know it because we met when I was in Singapore. But yeah, definitely. Currently, I'm working in Paris, but during the quarantine, I'm in my parents' house. It's way more a way more fun way to spend the days during the containments. Because imagine I don't really miss my small flat in Paris, but.
You know, I appreciate you sharing all that, and I do want to get back into like a little bit deeper about what you're doing in Paris, because what you were sharing is it sounds super fun. But I do have some questions to ensure that the listeners are getting their fill of information and you know what I'm promising to provide. But before that, I want to share some stories and get familiar with you a little bit further. How's that sound?
Yeah, so.
Can you share a bit about how we know each other, like what our experiences is, and because you did come to see me in Singapore, which was freaking awesome, and I just want to share a bit about that story in Singapore.
Yeah, definitely. So I took a look at all the messages that we had, and so I guess we met the first time in Bordeaux. It was in May 2013, I guess, and we first talked on Airbnb because you and Keith spent a few days in Cognac in my parents' house.
Yeah.
Because my parents had a Airbnb, so you spent some time there. So I guess you discover a lot about all the liquor that is made there.
Yeah, your dad. I love that your dad sneaks out and gets some grapes, and he makes his own Pinot, like not Pinot wine, but like it's Pinot, right? Like that liquor your dad makes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's Pinot. It's
it's so
liquor
good
from grapes.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, man, it was so cool how we met. I mean, it was so random. Me and Keith had booked an Airbnb, and the places that we had stayed already in France were all like in the city. So when we booked, we're like, oh, okay, cool, great. We're going to be staying in the city of Cognac. And we get in this taxi driver and we give them the address to your parents' house. And the lady kind of looks at us saying, I'm not really sure where this is, but I can try. So she starts driving, and she's driving totally outside the city. And me and Keith look at each other and we're thinking, oh my God, where are we staying? Like, we're nowhere near the city. We don't know the language. We don't know how we're going to get around. And now we're totally out of the city. I mean, we're going through the grape fields of Cognac, and there's no stores, no shops. And the taxi lady had looked at us, and we've been driving around for 30 minutes. And we're thinking, oh my God, our bill's going to be so much. And she's like, I have no idea where I'm going. And so she gets on the phone with your mom, and finally we get to the farm, and we are in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's what, 20, 30 minutes into Cognac from your house?
No, it's like 15 minutes if you know the good way.
Yeah. So we get there, you know, we're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And we get there and we like meet your mom, and your mom is, I mean, I think she knew like 5 words in English. She knew how to tell us. She didn't know English. That was about the extent of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
5 or 6 maybe words.
Yeah, a beautiful farm, literally surrounded by the fields of Remy Martin, and you know, your brother had came out because he speaks English. He speaks good enough English, and he comes out to tell us like, my mom asked if you guys brought your food, and we looked at each other like, well, what do you mean? He said that well, you're supposed to bring your own food because you're staying in, you know, the little house that we have here on the farm, and there's no stores, and we had no idea, and we had nothing, literally nothing. And so like your mom or your brother like took us on a little like tour outside in the great fields, and he's like, I think we can figure something out. And I think it was your sister-in-law's birthday, right, or something.
It was my brother's birthday.
Yeah, your brother's birthday, and they were cooking dinner at the house, and they invited us inside, and we were hanging out. And your dad was like serving us some of his Pinot, which was so bomb. And they were making like this. What was great was we were in France, and they were making like this Southern dish, like Louisiana, like gumbo Creole dish, which was so good. They're like, well, you can't really hang out with us because we're celebrating a birthday, but we'll pack you up a little plate. You can have some food, at least so you have something for tonight. Oh, they saved us, totally saved us. So that experience was great. And then like, you know, your brother helped us around Cognac. And then what was really cool is we were going to Bordeaux next. And they were like, oh, well, our other son has an Airbnb down there. Maybe you want to contact him. So we're like, yeah, sure. And that was when we reached out to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because you talk about the fact that when you arrived at my parents' farm, you were thinking like, where are we? Like there's nothing around us. And that's funny because we talked about you and Keith with my parents this morning. And my mother told me like, when I see the face of Michael, and it was like, where are we? I don't get it. it's like, yeah, pretty much nowhere.
Yeah. And your English is good. So like when we got a hold of you, it was like, I mean, it was easier for us. I mean, it's our own fault. We're in your country, not speaking the language. But what was great was I'm so happy we stayed there because it connected us to you and an amazing new way for us to travel in Bordeaux because we booked our Airbnb through you. We got down to you, I think like a few days later. And I remember you were studying at that time and you were like, oh, I'm on a little break. And you're like, well, I can move out of my place if you guys want, and you guys can have the whole place. And we're like, me and Keith kind of looked at her like, I mean, well, there's no point. There's plenty of room. And so this is what's different for a lot of people. They're not used to just staying with strangers. So they book a place unless it's like a hostel, right? And you usually have the whole Airbnb to yourself. And we're like, nah, man, just stay here with us. And so we just stayed with you. You stayed in your own place and we stayed with you. And then you just like hung out with us the whole time, showed us around Bordeaux, took us to all the bars, took us to all the spots. Oh man, it was perfect.
Yeah. I remember some good. I have some good memories in some bars and playing darts and drinking maybe too much beers. I don't really remember how many beers we took that night, but it was really cool to share that kind of experience because basically since I started doing some stuff on Airbnb, I at the beginning I did met really fun people and spending time with them was incredible. And so when my parents told me like, oh, they are looking for an apartment in Bordeaux and they want to spend some night there, it was the greatest opportunity to me to say, hey, yeah, come to my flat and let's have fun.
That's what I love about Europe, you know, and is the open-mindedness to travelers and like inviting people into your home. And yeah, okay, I'm from the States. I'm not trying to judge, but you know, we're very close-minded to that. And that comes from our own doing, from our own citizens and how we do things to each other. And that's not in a very positive light, you know, so we don't have this open mind to just invite strangers into our home. And even Airbnb took super long time for our country to kind of adapt to. That's what I really love is like, you just, we had found people we just on the street and then all of a sudden we were staying at their house on their couch, you know, like it's totally normal, right? For that, in that area of the world.
Yeah.
You've had some seriously big trips. I really love like how you travel. And one that I love the most is when you were in California and you went out, you were studying in San Francisco, but like you rent a car and then you just drive. You drive everywhere.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. The opportunity. My school sends us during 3 months per year. So it was during 5 years. I had the opportunity to study there. So it was great because I was at the Golden Gate University. So living the life of a person who lives in San Francisco, I discovered all the Bay. And yeah, as you said, we had like 2 weeks of break during our time there. And so every time I used to rent a car and like drive around the country. We did go across all the California, Arizona, visit all the natural park there and an amazing city, and it was like a crazy moments to live.
I think that's awesome that you do that. And can I just ask you, just for people to understand, like, so you're from France and I know you have a license there. So when you come to the States and you want to rent a car and like get around, how did you do that? Like, how did you know how to be able to rent a car?
So yeah, it's a good question because the first time I've been there, I was 20. So it was kind of tricky to get a car. So we had to find like a creepy rental company that bring us sorry for the word, a fucking Corolla. Like it was really a shitty car, and so that was the only car that I could get because no one would give me a car because I was under 21.
Yeah.
And so the French the driving lesson, it's fine when I was 21 and more. And all the company were okay with that. I guess we don't have to bring the international driving lesson. But yeah, the first year it was really tricky and weird, definitely.
Yeah, and like, so you didn't have to have the driver's license, but when you came here, so just for other people's knowledge, did you get the car insurance here or did you have car insurance back home? How did that work to make it, for you, so you protected yourself?
I guess I took everything from directly from there. So yeah, it was pretty easy. I guess in USA, I don't know for all the rest of the world because I basically rents a car only there, but it's really easy to rent a car, and it's pretty cheap if you compare it to France.
Yeah.
You can have like a Mustang for a week, and it would cost you under $500, and if you do the same in France, it will cost like $3,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you can't do that.
But in the States, you need it. That's the problem. In the States, you have to have a car. But in Europe, dude, you can train anywhere and taxi for most like cheap, and flights are cheap. So you don't really need a car in Europe. That's the thing.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I kind of agree with that. In Europe, you can easily go from a point to another, and maybe in US, the playground is like huge. So having a car is definitely the best option. Yeah, I remember when we get lost in the middle of nowhere and this valley, I have tons of story about driving there, and I guess it's part of the charm, the charm of USA.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take some of those photos from you and post them of when you were on your journeys. And man, I do remember you showed me this compilation video you made while you were traveling in the States that was just blew my mind. So if we can find a way I can share that with people so you can see, man, your video edits are great. Like your content's awesome, and I definitely want to be able to share that. But then you came to Singapore, so we met in 2013, and then 3.5 years later, you went and studied again in Asia, right?
Yeah, that's it. We met again in 2016 in Singapore, if I remember well, in the 57th floor.
Yeah, I was running the rooftop bar at Marina Bay Sands, and you came up with your buddies to see us.
Yeah, definitely. I got all my my mates from my flat, and we come see you on the top of the Marina Bay Sands. It was incredible, remembering all the time we had we spent together in Bordeaux, and be able to see you there at the other end of the world this time. And so it was kind of crazy. Like,
yeah, it was epic. I remember that night we went out was super fun. We had a great night out. I took you around to some bars, and now I got to show you around. Man, I still have that video of us creating that. You were trying to teach me that handshake. I still have that video.
yeah, I still have two. Yeah,
so funny.
When I'm a little bit sad, I watch it and I'm happy again.
Yes, that's the best thing
so
about
funny,
like traveling and taking the photos and videos. Like you really can just recreate that in your brain and be happy again. Like if you find yourself like stuck during work for like a year, you don't get to travel or something, you just pull up the videos and you can relive that moment. It's so that is what I love about traveling. You can relive it again. So I got to ask you this question. Like, so you came to the States. Were there any, and being from France, and I'm going to ask the question on the other way around, but when you came from France, had you heard any like misconceptions about Americans that like, you know, some like tales, or, you know, people had talked badly or maybe talked good about Americans, and maybe when you got here that wasn't true?
In any misconception about Americans, I guess yes, but rather on the positive way.
Yeah, good.
They are very friendly, welcoming. You said that Europeans were friendly and open-minded too, but I guess in my way, my vision, it's Americans are definitely more open-minded than we are. That's maybe nice. depends on the city or on the country in Europe. It can really change. But I met a lot of person in San Francisco and start a conversation with from nowhere and get an easy contact with people, and that's we don't have in Paris. Now I'm driving a motorcycle in Paris, but when I used to take the subway or the bus, I never had a conversation with someone that I don't know about my sweater. And that's the kind of thing that happened in there. So it's always funny to like you just out from your house and someone that you don't know say, "Hey, nice sunglasses."
Yeah.
Say, oh, okay. Yeah. It's really funny to have that kind of it's non-barrier, or I don't know how to say it, but we don't do that in France, and I like it when I was in USA. So yeah.
I think the West Coast has a different feel, and this is like just for me. I've traveled both the East and West Coast of the States, and there is definitely a different feel from the West Coast to the East Coast. And I think the East Coast more represents a little bit of that, like you said, that French style, that more kind of like they're so busy, they're caught up, you know, they're just doing what they got to do. They're not gonna sit and like, you know, compliment you on something, and that's not a bad thing. That's just you know, it's their style. And the West Coast is a little more laid back, and that's just, I think that's pretty common. But that's cool that you had that experience. Now I want to ask you that question on the reverse. What are some misconceptions, because I can speak on this, what are some misconceptions that some people have about French that you've heard from traveling, that may be like, oh, wow, you're not like what I thought, or, they've probably shared that. And I can attest to some of that.
I guess the first thing it comes to people's mouths when they talk to about France is people are mean. I guess maybe that's bad. I know, but poor English probably. That's probably the number one thing about people in France. I guess you experienced it with my parents. Even if my mother can clearly say, oh, do you want the eggs from the chicken? But that's the only sentence she knows, so it's hard to get a full conversation. But I guess maybe dirty. Some of the Americans I talked with say, oh yeah, you seems to be clean for a French guy. And so you're not you
you're
don't
not dirty,
smell.
you don't
I
smell.
don't know.
Oh my God, I know. That is the
sometimes
misconception.
like, oh, really?
Right?
Yeah,
but you got to
maybe.
think, there's probably people in the States that don't shower either somewhere, like, and it's different places, different cities. And I'll be honest, that was some of the things that I got too, is like, oh, French people are rude. And I'll be very honest, like, being from America, we are kind of feel a bit entitled, and, most of the world speaks English for the most part. And so I think the misconception when people first start traveling is think like everyone should speak English. And I realized my first time to France, like I got like that kind of rude gestures. But then when I went back the second time and I really tried to learn the language, I tried to at least learn the basics, like the common courtesy stuff, the thank you, hello, how are you? Can you help me, please? I'm sorry. And once I did that, it totally changed. Their perception and how they viewed me changed, and they were so much more open, and they're like, oh, okay, so he's trying to fit in. And that helps, I think.
I guess it's the old rules game. You have to know what to not how to say it. That's the rules game. Like you have to know how to initiate the conversation with the person to make sure like they feel comfortable. And I had some tricky stories about that. Well, I guess you saw the video about me saying happy birthday to my sister when I was in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I prepared a video and was recording people on the street basically. And the first time I tried to ask a person, she told me to fuck off and go away. And so I tried to get a better sentence to explain what I was doing. And to make sure like the people can understand what I was doing, and I don't want to bother anyone, and just want to share some happiness, and you use some words and you tell it in another way.
Yeah, I think once you start traveling, you really start, your mind starts to open, and you start to realize like everything doesn't revolve around the country and everything that you've been taught your whole life. And you start to adapt and become more open-minded to the things that how you should view things, and that you should take a step back and put yourself in their shoes when you walk up to them, and I like that you did that. It's you start to approach things with a more positive mindset, and you start to realize like how to approach people in different scenarios in different ways. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. But in speaking of like getting out and being about, like with this whole coronavirus thing going on, like I definitely, like as much as you travel, I want to know like what's your take on traveling after this? Like, does it change your perspective or desires to want to travel to other countries now? Like, how does that like started to play into your mind?
I definitely hope that it's not going to change anything, but I can't stop thinking about that, because basically I guess it will change a lot of things.
Yeah.
When I used to pack before going to another country, I never feel worried about the virus or stuff like that, and now I will definitely think about that, and I really hope that it's going to be as easy as it is today to travel in other countries. But for now, I guess it's going to change the way we are traveling, in maybe in a good way, because we have to be more conscious about Earth.
The view that I had of it just the other day was, thinking about my afraid to travel. And I've had people ask me like, does it make you not want to travel? But, it's not like Europe's the only country that has this and we're all safe. If I stay home in the States, in Nevada right now, then everyone here has it. If I travel to, Romania, people there have it. If I travel to China, people there have it. So like, it doesn't change my perspective because it's everywhere. But like you said, it makes you more conscious about what you're doing and where you're going, and maybe do a little more research, maybe bring some extra stuff, let's just see how this all plans out. I was really curious, like what you thought about that, because you love to travel too.
Yeah, that's it. I guess I don't want to change the way I want to travel. Maybe I will, yeah, as you said, prepare some stuff and get clear information about the condition there, and but yeah, it's not going to change the way I want to travel. And because of the containment, I definitely want to travel a lot when it's going to be
when it's over.
Okay, yeah, when it's over.
Yeah, me too.
At least when it's going to be more okay to travel. But
all right. Well, Roman, let's get into that backpack. Let's start unpacking what you got and what motivates you, what drives you, and how you get this all done, because you've done a lot. You do it for school and you do it on your own. So like, I want to start getting in there and unpacking what you got. So I want to understand, like, a lot of travel junkies have a bucket list, and they have like this top list. Do you have a top spot that was like the top almighty spot you wanted to go to, and have you been there yet?
I guess I used to have a huge bucket list when I was younger, but now I removed some stuff, and I've added some stuff. So thanks to my studies, I did check a lot of my bucket list. I guess the top one when I was younger, and it really came true. It was going to San Francisco.
Amazing.
Funny story, because when I was really younger, like 8 years old, I used to play a video game that is called Midtown Madness 2, Madness 2, and I was able to drive a car in San Francisco. The game was really shitty, but at the time it was beautiful, of course. Yeah, I was driving the Golden Gate Bridge and different part of San Francisco, and since then I told me, like, one day I have to go there. It was really my first place I wanted to visit. My second two was New York, but as a French kid, it's a lot about American culture. Yeah. As a French kid, my bucket list is full of American culture and American place. I did learn Chinese, so I wanted to go to China and some other Asiatic countries. But yeah, my bucket list was full of American city that hopefully I went to. So
has anything replaced San Francisco as, like, right now is the top, like that's the next top place I have to hit?
The next one is going to be more I want to go back to Philippines, definitely, because I want to spend more time there. But my next destination, I guess, is going to be Japan, but more the countryside of Japan, and have enough time to really make good videos and to learn the culture and share some moments. I don't know if I will be able to do it in 2020, but hopefully, yeah.
Amazing.
I did start already to prepare some stuff and check what I could do.
Yeah, Philippines is gorgeous and Japan's just epic. I got to go back to it. I've only been to Tokyo, so I can see why you want to go there. Has anywhere that you've been so far, like, I know everyone has its own charm and everyone has its own uniqueness, but like, is there that one place that's totally captivated you and that you've frequented there, you've been there many times?
I guess I will say it again, because basically that I fall in love with San Francisco. Yeah. I lived there 3 times. I could keep visiting San Francisco until my old days, but that's not only because of San Francisco. It's more about California and all the richness.
Could you see yourself living there?
I guess yes, definitely. That's the way people live there. It's close to the way I live in France. The landscape are beautiful. I don't know if I could live in San Francisco.
What is it like when you get there? Like, what is it about it? The views, the smells, the sights, the sounds. What is it like? Since we're on lockdown, help some people visualize this place that have never been there. Like, what is it for you?
It's a unique place in USA, I guess. There's tons of things to see in San Francisco. I really like the the landscape in the Bay Area, and then the fact that it's in the middle of California. So from there you can easily go to a national park. You can easily go to Los Angeles, and you can really spend sometimes in a huge city, and if you drive a little bit, you are lost in the middle of the Death Valley. That's really that's why I really like that part of the world, and especially that part of USA.
Yeah. What was your favorite food there? Like, what was like something you ate there that was just amazing?
I guess it's not the healthiest food that I will say, but something that I really miss, it's In-N-Out.
The In-N-Out burger, Americans do pride themselves on that. And if you've never been to the States and you don't In-N-Out burger, I mean, it is a damn good burger.
Yeah, I really miss the In-N-Out burgers, and especially in San Francisco, there's the Super Duper. That is pretty great too. If you try the garlic fries, that's incredible. But yeah, it's all about burgers, I guess, because I was living with roommates, and we had a big kitchen during 3 years, and we used to like go to the Safeway, the market, and take some fresh vegetable and cook by ourselves. That's
one thing I learned to love doing too. Is I think people think, and actually, I only did this a few times when I traveled Europe, but I do it a lot more now. Is you think that you have to go out and spend money on eating, but when you stay like in a place like an Airbnb or a hostel, you can go buy groceries and you can cook the food that you find there, and you can eat local food, and then you can usually have food that it's cheaper and you're having more meals. I really love to do that. Now I love to go buy the food at the local markets. I love to come back to the Airbnb or the hostel, and I like to cook the food from that area.
Exactly.
And it's so much cheaper.
Definitely. Yeah, sorry, go.
No, yeah, it's just so much better. I think I enjoyed it. I start to enjoy myself there. I mean, I still go out and eat, right? Like you still got to go to the local foods that are unique, and you got to go to the nice restaurants and that are very special to that place. But yeah, I like what you said. You get the food and you cook there. Yeah,
that I always plan my trip and put some restaurants, and of course it's always a great experience to try the best restaurant of the city, or a kind of a specialty there. But yeah, it's a huge part of the trip for me to get into a market and find some fresh products that local people used to love to cook, and so try to do my own creation based on all the products that you can find on the market. And
yeah, I like that too a lot. Thanks, Roman. But like I really want to start getting into like unpacking this bag, and I want to understand your travel identity, like how you start to prep yourself and get yourself ready to pack. So do you so I know you travel for school, but when you travel for fun, do you book hotels, Airbnb, hostels? I know there's couch surfing in Europe. Do you sleep on park benches? A lot of people bring a tent and they just sleep outside, like a hammock. Like what's your like normal for your sleeping arrangements?
For my sleeping arrangements, since I start to travel, I had some really fun experience with Airbnb, and it's really part of the trip when you meet people. Sometimes you can rent the entire flat and there's no one inside, but you can share accommodation with local people and spend the time in a really interesting way. You can really live with the people, and for me, even if it's the adventure and you can go with your tent, I would say
it's a bit different, right? Like to do it that way.
Yeah, it's different, and you miss something, but you have the freedom or the liberty to do whatever you want, and if you want to camp in the middle of nowhere in the mountain, you can. So it brings something and good aspect to it. For me, it's an important part of
when I've never brought the tent, and like I've actually always kind of admired the people that do the tent. But when I traveled South America just now for 3 months, I bought a hammock, and I've spent many nights out in the jungle, like in a hammock. Like I didn't sleep with anything. I just had a hammock with like a little tarp over it. So that was the first time for me roughing it like that. But it definitely makes you appreciate different types of traveling and packing with a hammock. And like, you really could sleep anywhere. God forbid something comes up and you can't get a place. Like you really could kind of sleep anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So when you, I know you like to do a lot of videos, but when you travel, do you like to journal? Like, do you do handwritten journal? Do you type in your phone? Do you just audio record in your phone, or not at all?
Yeah, I actually have a journal. For the first years, it was because my mother was too worried about my trip. So I did start. The first time I went to USA was in 2007, and I started a journal because my mother always wanted to call me, and I said, yeah, I don't have any data in here, so it's okay. I will share it to you my whole journey. And when I was back from this first trip, I did read a lot what I was writing, and it brings me some good souvenir and memories. So I decided to do it all time.
I
Sorry, I
agree.
don't know.
Writing, I mean, putting it down, it helps. Like when I traveled Europe, I didn't journal at all. And I really am upset that I didn't because I forgot so much stuff. But when I traveled South America every day, you can just get a journal app in your phone. And since now we can
Yeah,
type so much faster than writing, some people just love to write, which I still highly suggest. But I just wrote every day in my phone. I had a journal app and I just typed every day. It took me 5 minutes to recap my entire day. Now I have those memories forever and everything I can remember every single day for what happened. It's journaling, you have to 100%.
and this could be useful in two ways because it was useful for me to bring back some good memories, but it was useful when my friends wanted to visit that place, and I said, oh, okay, check my journal. If
Mhm.
you want, I can send you a link and you can see all the places that I've been to, and maybe experience it the way I experience it, and then try some of my recommendations. So, and people I met to remember all the moments.
People, the memories. Yeah, I agree. And it's journaling super important when you travel. I agree. Now, do you bring any books when you travel? Like, do you bring any like regular just reading material? Do you bring any books about cultural knowledge, like language learning, like where you're going? What do you bring books with you?
I'm kind of a digital native. I don't know
Yeah.
if we can say it that way, but yeah, I don't have so much books, but I have a lot of apps about the country, cultural thing, language stuff, and it's really useful for me. I could not go in a country without checking commands, way to speak with people, how to
Yeah.
interact, and what I really like to have a detailed plan of a circuit of what am I doing, and start on that and use a lot of apps to do so.
There's everything, and I think a lot of people fear like, how am I going to get around? How am I going to use my app? I won't have a phone, or I need to get a SIM card. And I'll give you some tips. Like, I'll just share some tips that I've learned in my travel journey. Is like, so when you go to a city, you can download Google Maps. You go to a city. Let's just say I'm going to Bordeaux, France. When I would go to Bordeaux, France, I would get on Google Maps, and you can download a city on Google Maps onto your phone, and then it downloads that map so you can use the map while you're offline. So even if you don't have service, it shows you everywhere you're going, shows you all the streets, helps you get around. You can pin things that you want to go to, you can favorite stuff, and it stays there while you're offline. So that's, oh my God, that's changed my traveling tremendously. Then another trick I learned in this recent trip when I went to South America is you have Google Translate. Google Translate, you can download an entire language to translate for you. So while you're there in that country, you can be translating offline. So you don't need a thing in your ear, and you don't need all these other things. Like, like you said, the apps, everything is there. The train apps, the transport apps, everything you can get and you can use, and you don't need a SIM card. And I think America, we're so connected to like thinking we need SIM cards. What Americans don't know is once you leave this country, you can buy a SIM card in almost any country you go to, and you just swap SIM cards in and out of your phone. That's helped me when I travel. Is like, you don't have to have a data plan. You can buy a SIM card at another country for like $10 and for like a week, and you have data all the time. And also there's Wi-Fi literally everywhere, because in the States it's not like that. Like everywhere has Wi-Fi. Almost anything you go to, train station, Wi-Fi, coffee shop, Wi-Fi, like donut shop, Wi-Fi. Everything has Wi-Fi, so you're never not connected.
I usually plan everything, so yeah, it's important for me to have all that information offline, and I use tool to do it. I don't know if you know Notion.
No.
I used it since a few months now,
Mm-hmm.
and I can prepare all the circuits, and I can involve the person I'm traveling with. So yeah, so everyone can participate into it, so I can like get a clear vision of each day, what can be the interesting place, and let people comment it. And since few years now, I'm traveling a lot with my parents too,
Yeah.
and it was really interesting to prepare everything like that. And as you said, all the apps that I use give you
Yeah, in
a
the
list
moment,
of it. But
I'm going to ask you about those apps, and it would be great to get some more like, top 5 so I can post them on my Facebook
yeah,
account for people to understand. But I'll say one of my favorite apps that you gave me was when you came to Singapore, you showed me Google Street Maps photo. Not just street maps, you can take photos on this thing. And you would even said you were like, you kind of look like a doofus standing there taking this photo. You look kind of silly, which you do, but who cares what anyone thinks? You're standing there taking this funny photo, but what's cool about it is it takes this entire 360
yeah,
degree
you have a
photo, up,
360.
down, left, right, everywhere you're at. And then what it does is it marks where you took the photo in the world. So you have your own profile on Google Street View, and anywhere that you've been in the world, it pins where you've taken one of your Google Street View photos. So you can go back and see that everywhere in the world that you've been and taken one of these photos. And so I always try and take one of those photos everywhere I go. And what's also really cool is, like, let's say you're traveling to, let's just say Berlin, Germany. You can zoom in on Berlin, Germany, and you can see all the people that have posted Google Street View photos there. And you can see what's cool stuff is there to go see. And then you can go there.
Yeah.
I've seen people take photos underwater Google Street View 360. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's starting to be so crazy.
Yes,
The quality of the picture you have underwater is like crazy. But yeah,
crazy.
as you said, when you plan a trip somewhere, you have a tons of website that show you good spot, and people are making that list, that kind of list. And if you go to Google Street View and take a look at all the real 360 picture that people can take, you really you can really plan all your stuff and be sure, like if you go to that place, it's not because a commercial site will tell you that it's the best place around. It's just because you saw it from by yourself. So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's definitely a good tool to prepare your trip. And of course, if you have the time to take some 360 picture, is although good.
Yeah, it takes
good
like a
memories.
minute to take the photo, and you do look silly, but who cares? Like the photo afterwards,
Yeah,
you're so happy
you
with.
look
You're like,
definitely
"Who cares?"
stupid.
You look silly, but once you get the photo, you're like, okay, this is pretty epic. So talking about travel tips, I want to talk a little bit about your tips for France. So being from Cognac, France, it's the only place in the world where actual cognac can be made. Everything else is brandy. I know your family farm is surrounded by Remy Martin grapefields. So, and I've been in the bartending world for a long time. I've been creating cocktails and mixing drinks for like 16 years now. You came and saw me in Singapore. We mixed you up some awesome stuff. But I have been getting questions from some friends about your level of cognac appreciation and knowledge. And like, how much do you actually know about cognac? I mean, do you know a lot about it, or is it just like that's where you grew up?
Yeah, I definitely know a lot. I don't know if I can say it a lot, but I know some stuff about cognac because my uncle have a farm too, and is producing some cognac for NSC.
Yeah,
And
wow.
all around my parents' house, we have like vineyards from, as you said, Remy Martin and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I really start to see the way people see cognac in the world when I was a little bit older. Because when I was young, I was thinking like cognac sucks. It's a small town and there's nothing to do here. But at like the age of 16, maybe,
Right.
I did drink my first glass, and since then, I guess I never stopped. So
I was gonna say, have you been drinking it since birth? It's like drops of it are in your baby milk, like it's just part of like what's in your.
Yeah, that's kind of the tradition we have here.
I was like wondering, like
But
my friend asked me, he's like, or does he rebel against cognac and maybe he only drinks Budweiser and tequila or something?
I like to have a fresh Budweiser, but cognac when I'm in France at my parents' house, especially, you cannot start to eat without the famous apéro. So it's you start with a drink of cognac, a glass of cognac. It's kind of hard for travelers, where I guess you experiment it, and a lot of person that we we received on the Airbnb on my parents' house did experience it the good way, but after 2 glasses of cognacs, you can feel a little bit weird.
Yeah, it is. It's good. I don't know why. It's just so much nicer drinking it there. It really is just so much nicer. But you had said earlier you're working for Hennessy, right? And like, what are you doing for them?
Actually, I'm working for a company in Paris, so it's a digital agency,
Mm-hmm.
and we are working with NSC to build a platform for all the relation between NSC and his partner. So all the farmer that are the vine worker. I don't know how to say it. The farmer actually, and so NSC have to build a true relation between the brand and all the people that are working to make a good cognac. So I'm working on that platform, and I'm also making some videos for NSC about all the process and all the knowledge that the farmer have about the vineyards and how to make a great eau de vie. We say it. I don't know.
Yeah,
how to say it
yeah, that's right.
Eau de vie. So there's a full process of distillation and stuff like that. So I'm making a video about all that and to show it to NSC.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely want to see your content because I know like you make some really, really amazing videos. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Did you hear about that project that Remy Martin and Pharrell Williams did about the record he recorded with them?
I'm not sure about
I
it.
think it's about 3 years ago. So it was like when the global warming whole thing started like getting really to be a big deal, like and the ice caps were starting to melt and the waters were raising. So I guess Pharrell Williams worked with Remy Martin and he recorded this special album. And they recorded it on clay, I think, and they released it. That they said if the waters continue to rise for the next 50 years at the same rate that they're rising, that there's a part in France that will be completely wiped out by water. Like there'll be no more cognac fields; it'll be gone. And so their whole push was Pharrell Williams recorded this album. He posted it on clay, and in Remy Martin's fields, they put it in this like protective case. And if we can help stop this in 50 years, they're going to pull this record out and play it for the world. So basically no one's heard it. But if we have global warming for the next 50 years, the same way it's going, this record will be completely wiped out when no one will ever get to hear it. It's an epic story.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's really interesting, but yeah, I didn't hear about it, but yeah, that's pretty engaged and that's good to see that some cognac brands are actually making good stuff about that.
Yeah, it's really pretty rad. So yeah, man, I want to get into I want to keep going down and keep understanding what you travel with and how you get going. And I want to get into this section called what's your travel ninja essentials. And the first thing I want to know is like, what are your top 3 essential items that you bring when you travel?
It's an odd question.
I heard drone earlier.
I guess. Yeah, you heard it well, because I guess I like to travel light, but I would say in my phone, definitely, you say it, even if you don't have any SIM card, you can have offline maps and it can really help you. So my phone, definitely.
Super
I have
important.
an iPhone XS, but it's not for the camera. No, it's not depending on the camera that you have. It's always good to have your phone around. My drone, because it's really I always regret traveling without it. I can't count the number of times when I said to myself, damn, this spot could be so crazy if I could have a drone shot. And yes, that's why. So I sell my big phantom drone. It's a DJI, and I bought a small one, the Mavic Pro, and so now it's really my best companion for a trip.
Yeah. So the drone type is your main camera, which is what you said, a Phantom?
I used to have a Phantom, and now I have the Mavic Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, my Mac probably, but now I have. I also bring my camera. It's Sony Alpha 600, 6500. And probably my Mac would be the last one, because I have to edit all this video and make sure I don't have a full memory card. I always bring my Mac usually, but for some kind of trips, I have only my phone, not necessarily my camera.
Yeah, sure.
But
do you have a specific backpack brand you always use, or like that you like and enjoy?
The backpack as used is not very a famous one. There's no brand on it. It's just like a $50 backpack found on Amazon, but it's really practical. I can put a lot of stuff in here. I could put my drone, my camera, all the chargers, and
that's the thing is it doesn't need to be expensive, right? Like as long as it fits
definitely
that you need. It's just you just need something that can take what you need to bring.
That fit your material and that fit your lifestyle.
Yeah. So I want to get into it. What are those top 3 apps that you use? Like, what are the top 3? Because you said Notion earlier, but I don't know if that's your main one. But
Notion is not the main one, but it's pretty interesting if you want to get a clear view of all your trip and knows if you want to mark the restaurant and if you want to remember all the places that you want to go to. But I guess the apps that are useful for me, I maybe talked to you about this app previously, but it was Snapseed. I used it a lot. It was for do like some photos edits. So it was an interesting app to retouch my picture. I use a lot now that I'm on the social media, Mojo. I don't know if you heard about Mojo, but it's like crazy app to create some cool stories for Instagram or for Facebook or anything. And I really like to do some storytelling about my trips. I have a funny one about my last trip in Ukraine. But Mojo is definitely a good app to create some interesting and original videos and posts for social media. And the last one, we talked about it, but it could be both Google Map and Google Street View. Because you have a dimension with a 360 picture that you can't have with a regular picture, and Google Maps to make sure you're not lost in the middle of nowhere, or at least you're lost, but you have your phone with you, so that's fine.
Yeah, phone's important. I mean, because it can do so much, so versatile. Awesome. So like when you start prepping, like to get going where you're going, obviously I'm sure you, like you said, you do your research, you kind of like, you go off your bucket list, and I'm sure that's how you kind of like start planning what you want to do. But when you go to these places, being from France and being from Europe, do you need visas to go to different places? And if you do, like, how do you go about getting those?
I never had to ask for a visa. I know that I'm lucky as a French traveler, because when I met some people in the USA that are from other countries, they told me that I was so lucky because being French, I can easily get it in any country, I guess. We may need visa for Russia or China, for example, but I've never been there. So maybe it's only 2 countries. And hopefully I never had any bad experience about this, but as
Americans, we're pretty lucky as well.
I guess for you it's pretty same
for France, but I did have to get a visa for China, and that took about a week, and it cost me like $200 and US dollars. And then I had to get a visa for Vietnam and Russia. This is funny. I was in Estonia, so like I'm literally right below the border of Russia when me and Keith were there, and we wanted to go to Russia. And our whole beef with Russia, it's like goes back and forth. So we wanted to go to Russia, but they wouldn't let us in. It's not they wouldn't let us in, but it was going to take too long for us to get there. So we got, we couldn't go because our timeline. I haven't been denied anywhere yet, but yeah, you just got to be prepared. Like what's going to happen. Like check this out. So my sister, she's not going to be happy that I'm sharing this story, but it's truth and people should learn from this. Like my sister had an amazing trip planned to India, and she was going to go for a week or 2, I think. She had this amazing meditation and yoga retreat space all planned out. Took the time to do it. She got to the airport and they said, do you have your visa? And she had no idea to even think about that. And I didn't, I guess when we talked about it, I didn't really think about it either. I guess I expected her to already have it planned. And if you don't have a visa right then, you can't get it. And sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes you can get it in 24 hours, but her plane was leaving. She was at the airport. She had to forfeit her whole trip because she didn't have a visa. And like this shit can happen. And you got to really be prepared for this stuff. Being from America, you can't just think you're going to get in everywhere. Another one that happened to me. You got to think like a lot of countries, you got to have an in and out. They got to know when you're leaving. You can't just buy a one-way in. You have to have a way out. So sometimes like countries like like in Europe, I could stay in Europe for 3 months. So it's all the countries in Europe. If you don't have a ticket out, they won't let you stay. Like you have to have, so like a lot of people, another old travel hack, a lot of people buy just a cheap plane ticket out of the country that may only be like $70. Then you just say, forget it. And you don't go, or you fly out for a day and you fly back in and then you get another 3 months. So you got to be smart with this stuff. Like when I was in Peru, they asked if I had a ticket out of Peru and I didn't. And I was at the airport and I was like, oh my God. So I went online, I bought a bus ticket out of Peru into Bolivia. And then I bring that back to the check-in desk and then they see my ticket and then they go, okay, you can get on the plane. But yeah, that's good that you haven't had any experiences with that yet. Like I've definitely had a mishap already. It's not fun.
I guess, yeah, that's the trick that you said really, yeah, interesting. It could help a lot of people, I guess, to make sure they can enter in the country.
You don't think about
and
it.
Even
you need to.
Yeah, definitely. And even for French people, when we go to USA, you have to the discourse, the thing you will say to the custom at the entrance is really important, because every time I was thinking a lot about this, and I never had any problem, but a lot of my friends had the interrogation or when you start to speak to the person and they ask you why you're here and how long you're gonna stay. If you're not like okay to say everything and clearly, you will go to a small room, a dark room, and they will ask you some question.
Oh, I've been questioned.
You've been.
I got questioned in I forget where I got questioned in Europe. I got interrogated. Me and Keith got interrogated. And you know what's funny? When I was coming back from Asia, I had not been back to the States in 2.5 years. I got interrogated coming back into USA. I got pulled into 2 extra side rooms and interrogated. Like, why am I here? Where have I been? Why have I been gone for so long? What was my purpose? Oh, for like 10 minutes in my own country. Yeah, it happens, like that's crazy. But yeah, you got to plan for stuff like that and be ready. And another thing is too, just another piece of advice for you travelers and people that aren't traveling or don't travel so much, is a lot of places will ask you where you're staying and the address. You need to have that ready when you get to immigration. They want to know where you're staying and how long you're staying there. They want the address. So that's another thing you need to have written down and ready to go when you get to the airport of the country you're going to.
It's a good trick again. And last time we experienced it, and it was kind of tricky because we planned to rent the Airbnb when we arrived. So we put just an hotel address. I know it's we are not supposed to do that, but it works. So yeah. It was okay, but we didn't have any clear address, and the guy at the customs didn't ask me for it, but he asked my friend, and my friend didn't knew what to answer, and he stays with them during like 1 hour at the customs with it, question stuff, and I was like so sad about that. And
I just like become prepared now. Like I just expect it. So when it doesn't happen, I'm like, woohoo! No interrogation. Yeah. Like I just, now that I've had it happen a few times, I just expect it. And you know what's funny is, like you say this, you get it's not interrogated, but you get asked questions at the immigration officer. And if you've never had this happen, the first time you get put on the spot, you get nervous. You feel insecure, and you start to like question yourself. You almost think like, well, actually, I don't know why I'm going here. And you start not knowing why. Now I'm just like, yeah, bring it on, bro. I've had the worst. I've been interrogated all over the place.
Yeah, that's something you have to be ready for in case it happens. Yeah.
And that comes from repetition. And like the more it happens, you just like, yeah, okay, dude, whatever. I got interrogated when I was flying from Philippines to this is like you talked about earlier, like the visas. A lot of I lived in the Philippines for a while. And Filipinos, they have a really hard time getting into other countries. And so in America, we have a lot of Filipinos that live here, but they're citizens. Filipinos that live out of this country that want to travel, like there's so many Filipinos that love to travel, but they have a really hard time getting visas, especially into the States. And you've been to the Philippines. Filipino people are amazing. Their culture is so nice. They're so friendly. They're so open. America even has a Navy base there. Like we have bases set up, and it's still super hard for them to get into the country. Like they always tease me when I was living over there. Like, you have it so easy. We can't get so hard for us to go anywhere. It's a privilege. And I'm very appreciative that I have that type of privilege, because a lot of people want to go places and they can't because of where they're born. And that's, that's a bit sad for them.
Yeah, definitely.
So, getting into further in your tips and tricks, like what are some of your personal travel hacks you use when traveling? Is there anything like cool little things that you can share with it? They're like, this is the Roman style and I always do this and it helps me when I travel.
Yeah, I have some. I don't know if we can talk about hacks, but I like to plan everything, and even the war situation. Make sure I can get a SIM card. Make sure I will get a clear circuit for the whole stay, and it gives me times to find the places that are worth going. So yeah, I really like spending time on the full preparation to make sure I will look for good restaurant, places to go, and places to sleep. Of course, because it's an important part of your trip. If you plan to go to Airbnb, if you arrive on a place where you already have like a 50% there and you didn't get the clear information and the place is like dirty and it's not safe for you. I have some bad experience with Airbnb also. So you really have to take some time to prepare everything. And nonetheless, I enjoy jumping on unplanned opportunities that local people and tourists suggest. I could definitely recommend to get a clear schedule for a trip.
Yeah, planning is important. Like I've winged it quite a few times, but when you sit down and actually put some stuff together that you want to do and do a little bit of research, it totally is better for yourself. And like you said with the Airbnb and we talked about hostels, is I've realized that a lot of people go and they travel and they stay in hotels, but you fall into this comfort zone of staying in a hotel and you don't. What I don't like about staying in a hotel is that I get too comfortable. And when I travel, I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be totally uncomfortable. And I don't want to sit in the comfort of my room and feel like, oh, this is so nice and cozy. I kind of want to like have something a bit. I don't really plan on being in this room at all. I just want a bed to sleep in. And that's what I think's been nice about Airbnb or hostels, is that it's just a bed and I only go there to sleep, shower, and change. And when I'm out traveling, I'm out. You can barely catch me in the room ever. Okay, let's say you land somewhere, you fly somewhere around the world. Do you like to travel by like trains or motorbike or bus, or do you rent helicopters? Like, how do you get around? What do you like to travel by?
It depends on the country, I guess. If we talk about USA, I definitely would rent a big SUV or a car because it's part of the trip. And in some other countries, in Philippines, for example, I really enjoy taking the bus. Like
me too.
A lot of bus that you can take to go from the north to the south, and it's pretty cheap. And the bus are actually pretty comfortable, and it's always safe. So yeah, depending on the country, in some small towns in Malaysia. Sorry, when I was in Malaysia, for example, all my friends and I rent some scooters, and it was really funny to go across the country by scooters.
Oh, it's the best. I love renting scooters.
Yeah,
it's the best.
It was really funny. We met a lot of person, and we did also take some ferries and boats to go to small island. But I don't really, except for night buses, I don't really go for public transportation like subway and train. I really enjoy doing it by myself. Have you? I guess sorry.
Have you made any like big mistakes when it comes to transport? Like, have you ever made any like really big mistakes?
I guess we did some mistakes in Asia, taking like a random cab, not using Uber or stuff like that, and like people inside the cab start to drive, and it was not able to talk in English or in French or any kind of language that I speak. Sorry, I don't know. So it was really, really hard to find our way, and it left us like at maybe 40 kilometers from.
Oh my god!
So it was 40 kilometers is like lost. Like,
oh my god!
It was really, really tricky, and we didn't have any Uber back. So I don't exactly remember how many minutes/hour we walked.
Oh my god!
To find the way back. But it's kind of it's part of the trip. You have to experience it one time, and then you don't do the mistake again. I guess you. you have to be lost in the middle of Asia to see to yourself, oh,
Yeah,
next
you
time I will
learn,
take
right?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
part of the it's part of like your it's like part of your growing into being a traveler, and it's part of your like record. Like you got to mess up, and it's just part of the game. Like it's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
And probably I can't think of anything else that happens to me personally, but talking with my friends and people, even I guess it could happen everywhere in the world, and I've heard it many times. Check the price before getting into a taxi.
Yeah, yeah. A lot
Like
of countries
ask,
definitely
I want
do.
to go there, and even in France, we saw it in the news recently that like Chinese people paid like more than 200 euros to get
Oh
from
my
point A to point B in
God.
Paris. It was obviously a scam, and so everyone was talking about it. But yeah, definitely check the price before you go, so you don't have any
Yeah, get
bad
them to
situation.
confirm. Some places you really do need to get if they don't have a meter, if you get in a car, if they don't have a meter, you have them confirm the price and you set the price. That is another good travel tip. I'm glad you brought that up because that is true. I've had that happen to me before too. If you don't see a meter, confirm the price ahead of time and go from there. And if it's not a price that you want to agree with, then just get the next taxi because you can always bargain
Yeah,
again on the next person. Yeah, that's
no
great.
problem.
I love that. I've definitely got some big mistakes and mishaps that have happened in my travels. It's funny. I mean, I've woken up on benches and lost shit. Oh man, I've definitely got some bad ones. So Roman,
All
if
right.
you were to go back to San Francisco, which I'm sure you will, earlier you said your phone, your drone, and your camera were like or your laptop were like some of the most important things that you'd always bring. So when you go back to San Francisco, would those be the main three things that you would bring, like for people to plan for their traveling there? Like what other things could be like top three things would be really essential for people to bring to see San Francisco?
I guess yeah, the drone will be definitely one of the thing because the last time I went there, I didn't I didn't bring my drone, so I would definitely go with it. But I guess I'm not sure if we have all the rights. So basically, if you want to travel with your drone, check with the country laws if you can drive safely and you don't have any problem with the law and stuff like that. But I would bring maybe more sweater because it's really cold by night in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Fully, but yeah, except for all the tech part. Yeah, my best friend remain my drone, my camera, I guess.
When you get going and you get all these trips going, and I have my own style, how do you get started? How do you plan it out? How do you prepare your life around getting ready to travel to these places? Like, do you have a savings plan? How do you start to prepare money wise to get this going?
I guess depending on what you can save, you can reduce your expense on other stuff, of course, little by little. But I really don't have a huge amount of money on my bank account right now, if I
Mhm.
can say it. But it never stopped me from giving myself the means to go on a trip. Everyone can, I think, enjoy a road trip in their own way, and it doesn't have to mean that it is extremely expensive and you have to save tons of money to go on a trip. I guess especially today, you go in the other end of the world and get an amazing and unforgettable trip that could cost you just few bucks. I don't have a clear saving plan or stuff like that, but for example, when I was 13, I wanted with my brother that is older than me. He was 15 at the time. We worked for a month in my uncle's farm, and we really wanted to go to New York. So my mother, because I have a big family where we are like 4 children, so my mother could not pay the tickets and the plane and all the stuff there. So we worked during a month on my uncle farms, and we gained enough money to complete this trip. So it was kind of amazing to be able to do that, and it didn't cost us a lot. We paid like 350 for the tickets, and it was incredible. So I guess you can, as I said, do it little by little, and regardless of your budget, you will have incredible souvenirs and memories to
Yeah,
go.
my niece is 19 and she's traveled out of the country a few times, but she has this big desire and I've been helping her with like her game planning and And like you said, it's just set the goal in mind. And Keith had said in the first episode, just make the plan and buy the ticket. And one way that I always did it was, let's just say I want to go to Colombia, and I know I want to go in August. So I have 4 months to plan. And, I start doing my research. How much are the plane tickets? How much is my room going to be? How much daily do I think I can spend? And then I set the goal like, okay, I need to make, I need to have $2,000 for this trip. And like you said, go out and go get a little extra job for a little while. So I told my niece, just pick up a side job and put all that money towards it. Or set yourself a daily goal. I can only spend $50 a day and I'm going to be gone for 10 days. Okay. Well, that's only $500 plus the plane tickets. Well, great. There you go. You just have to, I think people get kind of scared because they look at the big picture of like, how am I going to get done? It's going to cost too much. How am I going to get there? Instead of breaking it all down into very simple little steps. Yeah, that's kind of helped me. And I like that you said you just went out and got another job. And that's what Keith said too, is like, just get a side hustle, pick up something extra for 2 months, save the money. And then boom, you get a memory that's going to last forever and an experience that's going to change you, exponentially. Have you noticed in your travels, have you noticed a huge difference from who you were in the first time you traveled, your first big travel, to who you are now, and how you travel, your mindset, who you are?
Yeah, I think, since my first trip, I definitely think I'm more confident. I'm less afraid of unplanned situation, because it can be, we talked about the bad experience with customs that at the airport or stuff like that, when you get the question. When you lived it once, or you think about it, you can be really afraid. But if you experience it one time, the second time must be okay. So yeah, I've learned to talk to stranger, establish the first contact, make people comfortable, make some jokes sometimes, or trying to train myself to that kind of situation. And no, I'm definitely more confident and comfortable doing this. So yeah, it's not a huge difference in my daily life, but when I back on a trip, it's like I feel good.
Yeah, it definitely builds confidence for sure. Just getting out there, self-confidence in so many ways. Just going out and doing it will not only build your confidence in traveling, but just yourself in general, and how you talk to people and treat people. Like you said, just talking to strangers, it truly makes a big difference. I love that. What do you think the greatest gift for other people would be that they receive for themselves through traveling out of their own country?
I guess it depends on what kind of trip you experience. It can be learning to speak another language, having good memories with people, building some strong souvenirs, and probably seeing the world with your own eyes and from your own perspective. You can see tons of video today on YouTube, on the news and stuff like that. But when you are on site, in the country, and you live each moment, and you really feel the vibe, and you know it when you're there. It's kind of bad to say that, but when you're back for your first big trip, and you used to be afraid of it, when you will be back, you will say, okay, I want to go back again and continue to discover the world that way.
Yeah. If you, I asked it to Keith in the first episode, if you were to see yourself as a kid on the street and he was passing by you, your younger self, and you had a backpack on, it was overflowing with school books and supplies, and I know you've traveled outside the country for school, what is one solid piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
That's a funny question. I guess I would say keep dreaming about traveling, because I know that the younger me have the same feeling that I have today, but I'm more experienced today. But I was dreaming about traveling and discover the world. So I would say, don't think about the obstacles you will encounter, but the opportunities and the memories you will create for yourself, and go. Don't be afraid. Go for it.
I love it. Any last piece of advice for the listeners when it comes to life or traveling? Any quotes that you live by that you can share with us before we jump out of here?
Maybe there's tons. Don't doubt. Go for it. There is tons of things to see, to experience, and you miss something if you don't do it. So it's my vision, but
yeah,
you'll know it when you tried it.
Yeah, I love that. Like I said to Keith, the biggest risk you can take is the one you don't take. Yeah, just go out and try and do it. I love it. Do you, as we're getting ready to close this up, do you mind sharing any of your social media details for the listeners to further connect with your story, your travel photos? And I know you make amazing videos, and for who you're working for, man, we'd love to check this stuff out.
I guess it's not going to be the perfect moment to check my profile and my stories because I'm contained on in Cognacs, and the only thing I see every day is a garden. But it's a nice garden, so I could make some good stories anyway. But yeah, the social media where I post the most and where I talk the most is probably Instagram. So my name is Romain Chollet, RomainChollet.
Awesome. I'll post that too.
So yeah, I post the most of my photos and videos there. So yeah, definitely if you want to check some videos I made, go check my Instagram.
All right, I'll make sure I put that in. I'll put that in my description when we drop this on Facebook and online. But Romain, my brother, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show. Super grateful for you sharing your travel knowledge and stories with us. Welcome to the family and the tribe of Inspire the Collective. Please tell your family, your brother, I said hello. I miss them. I hope I can come see them again. Stay safe out there. Keep that bag strapped and laced, Romain, and I look forward to chatting with you further soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael, for having me in your podcast. I can't wait the next time we will see each other. Maybe it's going to be in Asia, in Europe, or I don't know, in Iceland, or I don't know. It's exciting to know that we could see each other in the, I don't know, 3 years in a new country, on the other end of the world.
Hey, brother, we never know what tomorrow brings, and I look forward to joining you or catching you in another area of the world in the very near future. So as the show comes to a close, to all the listeners, I'm going to hit you with the Pro Traveler Mindset tip for the week. And that is, as you go about the next 7 days, try to be as open-minded as possible. Don't worry, your brain is not going to fall out. And that's going to wrap it up for the second episode of What's in Your Backpack. Thank you for joining us on another journey. And as a heads up for next week, I will be having this season's first woman travel junkie, Miss Tanaya Brookfield, currently residing in Hawaii, but she has lived many, many years all over Indonesia while doing her lots of work all throughout Asia. She travels like she gets paid to do it. She's a freak for adrenaline-filled adventure. She's flown jets, she's raced cars, she jumps out of planes, and that's just to name a few. And to top it all off, she owns and operates her own nonprofit, helping save this beautiful planet in any way that she can. She truly is a living legend. If anyone has questions or curiosities about travel, adrenaline addictions, and conservation work, this woman will have an answer, or at least some input on the subject matter. So please reach out to us and comment, message, share, whatever it is on your mind, so we can discuss the topics that you want to hear about. Until next week's episode, stay safe out there, stay humble, and stay tuned for another episode of What's in Your Backpack. Lastly, as an update, we did just start a Facebook page where there will be photos posted to match the stories from each episode, plus much, much more. We are further expanding our reach, so please join us and get involved with Inspire the Collective as we grow our web-based community. You can find us at www.inspirethecollective.com. We did just start a YouTube page as well. And don't forget to follow my Instagram at Michael__O'Shea to get your fill of inspirational content, podcast updates, and travel fun. Try to remember that you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a plane ticket. And that's sort of the same thing.